This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, week number 13 in the National Football League. San Diego Superchargers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Huge matchup, especially for the Buccaneers. For the Chargers, you're hanging on to a hope, a whim that your season is still alive, but let's be frank with each other. You've had ample opportunities to turn this thing around. You've had ample opportunities to win games in the fourth quarter. Have failed to do so this season. Your season was already done before this game, but no one likes, I've said this on numerous occasions, no one likes to admit their season is over. So the Chargers were going to give it one last final push to see if they couldn't finish. And look, they had a very, very soft finish to their season. If they could find a way to get this one. They had some winnable games down the stretch, do the San Diego Chargers. I'm just saying something a little favorable that maybe if they could get this one against a tough Buccaneers team, they may be able to run the table and get to 10-6, and then you just see what happens once you get to that point. But in order to win 5 in a row, you got to win 1 first. And so, or in the Chargers case, 6 in a row, having won last week at Houston. In order to win 6 straight, you got to win 1 first. They did that last week. Now you got to get to 2. And this was a tough team to get that second win against, in a red-hot Buccaneers team that has slayed some of the NFL's best over the last couple of weeks, going to Kansas City and winning, then coming back home and beating and stifling the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team playing with the utmost confidence right now, and a win here would put them at 7-5, coupled with an Atlanta Falcons loss earlier in the afternoon. This win would give them an opportunity to share first place with the Falcons at 7-5 in the NFC South. So this was a big, big matchup for the Buccaneers. If they could win this one, they would be sitting atop the NFC South along with the Atlanta Falcons. So big game for both of these teams, but really the Buccaneers were the ones looking like, hey, we have to get this one if we're looking to try to win this division. So let's start with the team that won this game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we start with Jameis Winston. I look at Jameis Winston, and for those of you who haven't already done so before I even start, make sure you subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content 2016 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by subscribing to the Louie Tee Network. I'm also on Twitter. In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter, and I'm also on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. All my social media platforms up above, in the box, in the center, scrolling across the screen. You can't miss them. Go ahead, handle that. With that being said, back to the Buccaneers and Jameis Winston. I love the way he creates when there's nothing seemingly there. His ability to create on the move, throw accurately on the move, his ability to throw wide receivers open, his ability to throw to receivers who are covered, but put the football in a specific spot. And I talked about the Buccaneers being one of the innovators of basketball on grass, or as I call it, bog, with these taller receivers that you can throw the football up high to, like a Mike Evans. Cameron Brate does classify for that as well. They used to have it with Vincent Jackson, of course, Evans, and then the tight end, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. But now it's more of just Jameis Winston creating. And some of these smaller guys like Humphreys or Martino, these are smaller receivers. Even Cecil Shorts is a smaller guy. You got to put the football in specific spots to throw them open. And with the bigger targets like Evans, they can have 2 guys on them and their back is turned. Winston will throw them the football, throw it up so they can go up and elevate. That's what you saw in the Cameron Brate touchdown in the end zone late in the ball game. Winston throwing the football up, giving him a chance to go and get the football, and not allowing it to be down there, putting it on the top shelf. Okay, so those little young boys can't get to it, man. Perriman, not looking for the football, make him pay. Winston does a great job of, even when his receivers are covered, giving them a chance to go up and make a play on the football. His accuracy on the move, his accuracy when guys are covered and throwing them open is phenomenal. His ability to make plays is what is breathtaking with him. And the thing with Winston is consistency, which has eluded him throughout his career. But when he's on, like he's been on this 3-game winning streak here, this is a dangerous football team, especially if they keep playing defense the way they've been playing it of late. We'll talk about that defense here in a little bit. But Winston has been the catalyst offensively for the success of this Buccaneers team of late, and his ability to put the football where his guys have a chance to make a play on it and the defenders don't. Roberto Aguayo misses again, and this is getting old fast. Again, I'm not going to harp on this too long because I've done it enough times. I'm tired of beating the young man up, frankly. So 34-yard chippy, you got to find a way to make that. In a game where you're on the road, you don't know how many points it's going to take, but you know the Chargers can score. You can't miss that field goal if you're Roberto Aguayo. In the Bucs case, you just need to get in the end zone. Don't leave it to chance with this guy. They did have to settle for a couple more field goals, but they were a lot closer. Look, with Roberto Aguayo, in the case of him, just try to get in the end zone, man. Take him out of the equation if at all possible. I know it's tough to do in this league. You're going to have to settle for field goals. A playoff team shouldn't be going into the playoffs with a liability like this. I don't know if the Bucs are going to make it or not. I'm be honest with you. But Roberto Aguayo is a liability right now. He can't be trusted. And you'd hate to see one of your playoff games or a game that could get you into the playoffs come down to a miss by Roberto Aguayo. That's a tough spot to be in because you spent a second-round pick, but at some point, and it's early, I know we shouldn't even be talking about cutting ties with this kid. He's a rookie. These things happen, but there's a shorter leash on a field goal kicker than, say, a second-round receiver or a second-round quarterback or so forth or so forth. He's a field goal kicker. He immediately impacts the game when he doesn't do his job. If a receiver has a drop, second-round receiver has a drop in his rookie season, guess what the coach can do? Can sit his ass on the bench and put somebody else in. You can't put another field goal kicker in the game. You got to keep going back to this guy even if he's lacking confidence. If your second-round offensive tackle is struggling, you can sit his ass down and put someone else in the game. You can't do that at the field goal kicking position. So if he's struggling and he misses, he's directly impacting the rest of the team, and there is no alternative. You just got to roll with him. That's a scary proposition. That's why that position has a lot less leeway than, say, a receiver or a quarterback or a guard or a tackle or a corner or a safety. You get my premise here. There are other options that you can go to if a guy's struggling. Give him some time to get his wits about himself and put him back in the game. With a field goal kicker, there is no other alternative. Either he gets it done or you fail. And right now, Roberto Aguayo is not a guy that can be trusted with this Buccaneers football team. Their season is on the line right now, and he's not a guy you want to send out on the field for a 47-yard field goal to win you the football game. You just can't trust him at this point. I love me some Cameron Brate. I've been talking about him all season long. I said, look, Mike Evans doesn't have a ton of help. I said, but one guy that I think you can trust is Cameron Brate. And I said that since the preseason. He was making plays in the preseason. I said, I like this Cameron Brate kid. I don't know him, but I like him a lot. And as the season has progressed, I've done nothing but have more affinity for him. My affinity for him has grown more and more, and he continues to make plays. This is a guy that Jameis Winston trusts, that he's looking for, that is a security blanket for him. When Evans isn't open, his next guy is Cameron Brate. And I think Cameron Brate is a difference maker for this Buccaneers offense. And then finally, let's talk about this Buccaneers defense. They made some huge plays in this game. They're coming alive at the right time of the season. If you want to talk about the catalyst for this little bit of a run here, this 3-game winning streak, it's the defense. It's the defense first, and then it's Winston second. The defense has been lights out. It was lights out on the road versus Kansas City, and you have to be against that unit if you're going to win. It was lights out against Seattle last week, 6 sacks of Russell Wilson, caused a bunch of turnovers, including the game clincher, Bradley McDougald with the pick. They sacked Russell Wilson, forced him to fumble, picked him off twice, forced a fumble of Jimmy Graham. They were opportunistic. They made plays. This week, same deal. You get Vernon Hargreaves, the third to knock the football away. It's picked off by Levante David and taken into the end zone. You get a Phillip Rivers interception late by Keith Tandy, who's a special teamer, getting some opportunity to get some late run in the game, making a play one-on-one down the field with Dontrell Inman, picking the football off and giving the Buccaneers a chance to get one more first down to put this game away. This defense got after Phillip Rivers. Gerald McCoy with a huge sack of Phillip Rivers after the initial Jameis Winston interception that gave the Chargers some great field position. McCoy's sack pushed the Chargers into a much further field goal, and it was ultimately missed by Josh Lambo, 53 yards. Defense stepping up. Noah Spence drawing a holding penalty that destroyed a Chargers drive. He also had another play where he got pressure on Phillip Rivers. So Spence, the young guys, Hargraves and Spence, starting to have an impact. And then all these other guys starting to play up to their full potential. McCoy and David and all of these guys starting to make plays. It's all starting to come together for this Buccaneers defense. They're starting to force the issue. They're starting to create turnovers. This is a hungry Bucs defense. They're young, they're talented, they're athletic, they're flying around. And now you're starting to see this thing all start to come together for this Buccaneers defense. And right now, the way they're playing defensively, if Winston can minimize the turnovers, and he's done that for the most part, you're going to get usually one. Like I said, with Jameis Winston, you got to expect that you're going to get one of those oh-no throws a game. But if he can minimize the amount of mistakes, if Doug Martin can avoid fumbling the football, this is a dangerous team because the defense is creating opportunities via the turnover, and they're getting after teams, getting them off the field on third downs. They're getting after quarterbacks. They're making life miserable for the opposition, and that's what it's going to take for this Buccaneers team to make the postseason. This defense playing the way that it's playing, and Winston playing the way he's playing and minimizing the mistakes. They got it done in this game. When plays needed to be made, every time the Chargers had an opportunity to run away, whether it was 7-0, Bucs respond with a score, or it's 14-7, Bucs respond with the score. Whether it's a field goal, 2 field goals, or what may have you, the Bucs did it every time when it seemed like the Chargers had a chance to assume control of this game. 21-13, Bucs score. Okay, they responded each and every single time they had to in this game. Chargers looking to try to tie the game up, Bucs respond. Big play by Hargraves with the deflection picked off by David. Bucs respond. They found ways to get it done in this game, and that's what the good teams in this league, that's what the playoff teams in this league do. Bucs did it in this game, and they get away with a 28-21 victory on the road against a tough, gritty San Diego Chargers team. That's a big win for the Chargers. Once again, in the AFC West, on the road, they've gotten it done yet again. You go to the Chargers in this game, and it's really disappointing. Looking at their record at 5-7 as a Chargers fan, this has to be one of the most disappointing and frustrating seasons if you're a Chargers fan out there because of all of the games that you say shoulda, coulda, woulda, but we didn't. And a lot of those shoulda, coulda, wouldas come in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. It's winning time, and the Chargers simply don't know how to win in winning time. But let's break this game down. Melvin Gordon is so good and versatile. My goodness. I remember this time last year, there were people calling for his head. There was people calling him a bust. I had a guy tell me flat out 3 times that this guy was Trent Richardson Jr. And I said, are you crazy? Are you crazy or just stupid? You know, which one is it? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. This guy's so much more athletic. He's so much more dynamic and explosive. He can catch it. He can run it. He can run with speed, as you've seen throughout his career. And in this game, he catches a little dump off. And both Buccaneer defenders, at least one, has the angle, outruns the angle to the corner. And if he doesn't slip, he probably picks up another 8 or 9 additional yards before he's going to be escorted out of bounds. This guy has speed. He has power. Look at that touchdown run. Tell me that there's not. Look at the 3rd down and 1 run and tell me this guy doesn't run physically with power. This guy has the entire package. He was the leading receiver, the leading rusher in this game. Love Melvin Gordon III. They got themselves a building block there at the running back position. Josh Lambo's 53-yard miss was a big play in this game. Chargers had all the momentum at that time of the game, and that miss gave the Buccaneers great field position. And the thing I hate about that miss is he wasn't even close. It's almost to the point where you're like, are you sure he can make that field goal? Because you don't see field goal kickers in this day and age with how good the kickers are. You don't see guys miss like that very often. That was a horrible miss. He hit that one very awkwardly. That one never had a chance. And I thought that changed the tenor of this game early. Casey Hayward is playing some ball out there. 7 INTs. He added another one to his total in this game. They talked about how this defense has generated at least one turnover every game. Part of the reason why is because of Casey Hayward and his ability to pick the football off. 7 INTs. He's been stellar for them in the secondary. Just imagine if this team was healthy. All the injuries that they have this season, just imagine if they could have stayed healthy, what kind of damage they could possibly be doing right now with guys like Hayward playing out of their brains right now. Travis Benjamin's drop was massive in this game. You either get, with Travis Benjamin, you either get good Travis or bad Travis. We saw the bad Travis earlier in the season versus New Orleans when he fumbled, and that led to the game-winning score. You saw bad Travis here with the massive drop. That could have put this game out of reach. That was a big play at the time. If he scores that touchdown, at the time, Chargers were up 21-20. He catches that. He's gone for a touchdown. It's 28-20. Who knows what happens after that? Maybe they win this football game. But you will never know because he dropped the football. Then you've seen good Travis before. The Jacksonville game was a huge game, probably his best game of the season thus far as a Charger. So you just don't know which Travis is going to show up. You got bad Travis in this game with that drop. And then finally, the Chargers' fourth quarter woes continues. Rivers with another INT at the end of a football game. Look, I love Phillip Rivers. I love what he brings. I love his competitiveness, his feistiness, his determination. I love what he does with guys that you don't expect him to be able to do what he's doing with, like last year where, I mean, he was one of the best passers in the league with a bunch of unsung heroes and guys you never heard of. That being said, he turns it over way too much in critical junctures of the game. And it's just inexcusable. You want to make excuses for him. You want to say, oh, they this, that, and the third. He's got to stop making these mistakes. You look at the Dolphins game. You look at this game. You can't have these kinds of crucial mistakes late in ball games. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost your team. And he continues to make these types of mistakes that hurt his ball club week in and week out. The Raiders game, you're up big. He throws an ill-advised deep ball that gets picked off. The Raiders make a comeback and end up stealing that game from you. It's just too many of these this season. Too many mistakes by Phillip Rivers in crucial situations. He's too good of a quarterback to continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again that kill this Chargers team late. And this was a really disappointing loss because this is a game right there for you to get back to 500. And again, you don't know what's going to happen. All you can do is stack up wins like bricks, and we'll determine if it's enough at the end of the season. But losing a game like this, to me, a microcosm of this season. This is what the Chargers have done all year long. Failed to put teams away in the fourth quarter. Failed to make the winning plays in the fourth quarter. And this was another disappointing effort. Joey Bosa looked good, though. He was able to draw a couple of holding penalties, made some plays, got a sack on Winston. So he came alive in this game. But another fourth quarter, another Chargers meltdown when it mattered most. Defense didn't get a stop. Offense couldn't go get a score. And the turnover, just a huge gut punch. Chargers defense still could have came out and gotten a stop and gotten the football back. Failed to get the stop on 3rd and 1. And the Buccaneers get the win 28-21. Let's get to some of your comments here about this game. Very, very disappointing result for the San Diego Chargers. Big, big win for the all of a sudden red-hot Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kendall Hardy says, Bucs are a top 4 team in the NFC. As of right now, they're not. They're actually the 6th seed, but looking at how well they're playing, you could make the argument, yes. I think they're right now they're better than the New York Giants. So, yes, I would put them in the top 4 of the NFC playoff discussion right now because they're playing better than the Falcons are as well. So, yeah, I would say that they're a top 4 team in the NFC right now. But, again, it's fleeting. All this ranking and determining where teams sit and seeding, all this stuff is very fleeting. You could be one place, 1 second, and in one spot, and then the next week you lose, and next thing you know, you're not even in the playoffs anymore. So all of this stuff is fluid, And the Bucs are playing great football, but all it takes is one loss for them to be right back on the outside looking in. So they just got to continue to win. That's the best advice anybody could give them right now. Just keep winning football games. Courage the Cowardly Dog says, is a healthy Chargers team a threat to win the AFC West or even the AFC? Talking about next year. Definitely. I mean, this is a team that has everything that they need. They just got to stay healthy. The one thing they don't have is health. And another thing they don't have right now is the clutch gene. And you need that. You need to find ways to win in the fourth quarter. And they've had opportunities this year. Despite all the injuries, they've been in just about every single ball game with a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and they just haven't. And so they've got to find a way to turn that around in order to win. Slump TV says, is Melvin Gordon a top 5 running back? I don't know if he's a top 5 back yet, but I'll tell you what, man, this guy is really good. I've been really impressed with him and Jay Ajayi this year, are the 2 young backs that I've looked at and said, you know what? These guys have a very promising future. These are 2 of the better young backs in the league, and both of them are very versatile. Both of them can catch it out of the backfield. Both of them can run through arm tackles, are shifty enough to make guys miss, can't have some speed. I think Gordon has a little bit more speed than Ajayi does, but both of these guys are dynamic, and they're 3 down backs, both of them. I like both of those backs right now. And, of course, there's the David Johnsons, the Le'Veon Bells of the world. Of course, Ezekiel Elliott. There are a number of really good backs out there. I don't know if these guys are in the top 5 quite yet. DeMarco Murray is also playing well this season, but you'd be hard-pressed to make a list of 7 running backs in the league and not include both Gordon and Ajayi before you get to at least 10. I think those guys are probably in a discussion before you get to 7. So they've been that good this season. Melvin Gordon is definitely up there. No doubt about it. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 10 says, did the Bucs make a mistake drafting a kicker in the early second round? Yeah, they did. And I'm not a fan of drafting a kicker until the 5th round or later. I feel like most field goal kickers, you can get one of those guys after the draft is over as an undrafted rookie free agent. I mean, I don't feel like you need to even spend a pick. But if you do, I don't know who was going to fight them over Aguayo. Maybe they had some intel that said someone was going to draft him. I was never impressed with him, and that's why I went in on the Bucs when they selected him, because I didn't think he was that good. I just didn't. I was not impressed with him at Florida State, and you're seeing that now. And it's never a good idea to trade up for a kicker in the 2nd round, because there's immense pressure on that kicker now, and when he doesn't perform, the scrutiny is even bigger, harder, and harsher. And that's what's happening to Roberto Aguayo. Look, if he was a 5th round kicker, it'd be a lot less pressure, and maybe he'd be a lot easier to dispose of. But when you spend the 2nd round pick that you traded up to acquire to get this guy, you can't give up on him. You have to stick with him, even if that means missing out on the playoffs because of a missed kick, or missing out on a playoff victory because of a missed kick because of this kid, which I could easily see happening down the stretch of this season. All right, moving right along. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says, how do you feel about Casey Hayward since Jason Verrett's season ended early with injury? I've talked about Casey Hayward and how big he's been for this Chargers secondary this year. He's playing outstanding football. I don't know if they knew what they were getting when they got him from Green Bay. They just thought they were getting a good corner. He's been outstanding for them, a playmaker of the highest regard this season. And it'd be great to watch him and Verrett on the same field consistently, because Verrett is such a good football player. When healthy, that's a problem. He's never healthy, it seems like. But Hayward has been outstanding for the Chargers this season, and him coupled with Verrett would give them one of the better 1-2 tandems at the cornerback position in the league. Rich Singh says, no, it's early from your observation. What does Tampa Bay need worse, another wide receiver or a safety? Yeah, it's definitely early for me to start talking draft, but just looking at the team from afar, obviously, without a doubt, they need another receiver. Because I think this defense is good enough with the pass rushers and the front 7. They're good enough to survive having Chris Conte at safety, or having whomever at safety. Whether it be Bradley McDougald, Conte, whomever, they're good enough to survive at safety. But they're probably still going to take a guy next year and try to develop. And they took one this past draft, and they're probably developing him as we speak. But the biggest thing right now for me is they need to get more weapons for Jameis Winston. when it's not Mike Evans or Cameron Brate, you just got a smorgasbord of guys out there, conglomerate of guys, Martino, uh, uh, Humphreys, there's Cecil Shorts. I mean, there's Shepard. There's just a bunch of just guys. They're just guys. You need another playmaker out there to complement Mike Evans and Cameron Brate on the outside. So I would go with the receiver, definitely. You got Jameis Winston. He's your franchise quarterback. Give him the weapons to be successful. Peyton Manning, hashtag Peasy Breezy, hashtag Slim Peyton, says the Chargers have endless injuries, but since got a decent record. No, they got a ton of injuries, and it doesn't matter about the injuries. They should be better than what they are record-wise. They just don't make the plays down the stretch to get it done. Larry G's the best says, who's the top 3 underrated players on both teams? It's hard to really say who are the underrated players on these teams. I mean, I'd have to sit down, and again, these are questions that you want to sit down and analyze. Both of these teams have good players on them. I don't know, what you consider underrated. Both of these teams have good players, though. But I've been talking about Cameron Brate all year long. He's a guy that I really, really like. I think you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and some of their offensive linemen, you could argue some of those guys are unsung heroes of that football team. You look at some of the guys on their defensive line, you could argue some of those guys are, unsung heroes. It's really hard to say with that. But moving along, RG3 hashtag Smoking at 3 says, who's got the best linebacker group between the Chargers and the Buccaneers? I'd go with that's tough because both of them are young and talented. I'd go with the Buccaneers just because of the consistency. I know that Levante David is going to play every week. I know that Quan Alexander is going to be on the field every week. I don't know that about the Chargers linebackers. I don't know when Perriman's going to feel like missing 2 or 3 straight games. I know Manti Te'o's not going to finish the season. I know he's not going to even play half of the season every year. So it's hard with the Chargers because their guys just don't stay healthy. I'll go with the group that I know what I'm getting from them week in and week out, and that's the Buccaneers linebackers group. Lastly, Rich Singh says, also, could you see the Bucs with the surprise draft pick of Dalvin Cook, even with Doug Martin? Will Dalvin Cook be around? That's the question. Will he be around? Jameis Winston will be banging the table for him if he's available, but depending on where these Bucs will be drafting at, will Dalvin Cook be available? Because let's face it, if they make the playoffs, that means you're automatically in the 20s selecting. So, and he may not be around. I mean, he's a really good running back, and I think people are really figuring that out right now. And so it wouldn't be surprising to see him come off the board a little bit sooner, maybe than the Buccaneers may be able to select. But no, it wouldn't shock me if they did that. Not at all, but I don't see them spending and devoting a first-round pick, not when they have Martin and they still have the West Virginia running back as well, who's injured currently. And then Jacquizz Rodgers hasn't been bad either, so I don't think they look at the running back position as a need right now. They have other pressing needs that they would need to address before taking a luxury pick like a running back in the first round. Craig Smith says, sick of the lack of discipline on this team. Speaks to the lack of leadership. McCoy never accepts responsibility for anything, always blames execution. Leaders don't point fingers. Smith also says, this team will be a top 5 team next year with a new head coach and an overall team health. Fingers crossed. We'll see if McCoy is able to survive this season. I don't think he will. They had already talked about his job being on the line and these final games really determining his fate. And I think because of the way they're going to finish this season up, probably at 7-9, maybe 8-8 at most, that's not going to be good enough to satisfy the appetite of management. I could easily see their head coach, Mike McCoy, being dismissed. We'll see what happens. Craig Smith says, Boza, LOL. Who's your pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year? There are a number of candidates out there. You played against one in this game in Noah Spence. Don't think he's going to win it, though. I think it's between Yannick Ngakoue, Joey Boza, Leonard Floyd out there in Chicago, Jalen Ramsey with the Jacksonville Jaguars has had a stellar year, even though he doesn't have any interceptions. There are a number of guys that have played well as rookies defensively, and Bosa is one of them. And if he continues to get to the quarterback, he will definitely have a strong case. There are other guys with more sacks, but I don't think those other guys play the run as well as Bosa does. So I think right now Bosa, if he can compile some more sacks, will definitely be a front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I thought he had a really strong game this game as well. Courage the Cowardly Dog says, hypothetically speaking, which is more talented receiving core? Keenan Allen, Stevie Johnson, Travis Benjamin, or Amari Cooper, Crabtree, and Seth Roberts? Definitely the Raiders group is more talented, and they're younger. Keenan Allen seems to be a little bit older than what his age may indicate with all the injuries. Stevie Johnson isn't that guy anymore that he was when he was with Buffalo. And Travis Benjamin, he's a hit or miss guy. Either he's going to make a big play or he's going to make a big mistake. So I would go with the trio of Crabtree, Cooper, and Seth Roberts in Oakland. And that is it for this breakdown and your comments. I thank you guys for watching. Big win for the Buccaneers. These guys are red hot right now. Winners of 3 straight. They're now 7-5 on the season. Have a share of first place in the NFC South Division with this win, 28-21 over the Chargers, who dropped to 5-7, and basically see any hopes of making a late season push for the postseason dashed with this loss. We'll see how the Chargers finish up this season. They still can impact the AFC playoff race, however, as they have games remaining with every single team in their division. I want to say all of which are at home. Home for the Chiefs, home for the Raiders, or they don't have any more games. The Broncos, they already played them, but they do have 2 home dates with each of the teams playing on Thursday night, Chiefs and Raiders. So they will impact the, or at least have a chance to impact the AFC West race and the AFC West playoff picture. So we'll see what happens with the Chargers. Bucs, big win, and now they're in the playoffs as of right now. Now they're going to be greedy now, and that's what they should do. Go after the NFC South divisional crown. Young team, hungry. Do they have enough experience? Do they have enough to get it done down the stretch? We'll see. Bucs get it done here on the road against the Chargers, 28-21. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room on the Louie Tee Network. Lockdown coverage. Bucs win 28-21. Chargers now 5-7 on the season. Bucs go to 7-5. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I'll be back for the breakdown at the conclusion of a Monday Night Football. Jets at home versus the Indianapolis Colts. I know you're not looking forward to it. Neither am I. But I'll be back to break it down nonetheless. I'll see you then. Enjoy the game. Hopefully it's not a snoozer. We'll be back to break that down a little bit later on. Have a good one. See you for Monday Night Football Overtime.